Hey guys, welcome to the Nick Bahe YouTube page. You know what you need to do. You need to subscribe, you need to ring the bell, you need to like the page, you need to leave a comment. I appreciate you. All right, here we are. Ruud, Nick Bahe. He's already laughing. So usually, by the way, shouts out to RNC for making all of this possible. Usually these are wine pods. Scheduling obstacles. It is 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. Couple of things. Drinking alcohol before noon on you're Barney Gumble. You're either Barney Gumble or
this is Mad Men. Like, if this is Mad Men, yeah, we could pour that.
Yeah, I suppose
seemingly in the morning they were started drinking scotch.
Okay, I didn't think about that. So you're either Gumble or you're Don Draper.
Yeah, you're in the 1950s on Madison Avenue, and
I mean, what is that? You just walk in and be like, hey, let me fix you a drink. Just
come on in here. Like,
come on in here. Drink. I mean, by the end of the day, you'd just be sloshed, right?
They were so,
and then they would go out for after.
Yeah,
what was going on in like the 1950s?
I mean, and they were seasoned drinks, so this was
right.
This was an era where they drank enough that being in that state was normal.
Right, you could function. You could
drinking and driving was normal. I mean, it's crazy.
It's nuts. It's totally nuts. But so basically, because it's 1950s, we're not Don Draper, Barney Gumble. King at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning feels not right. And especially wine during the day. No thanks.
Red wine. Like,
right.
If you drink a white wine in the afternoon, a hot day.
That's not bad.
You can do that.
Right.
Red a.m. is
like, that's
early.
This sound like we love our red wine. Right now, some red wine sounds awful.
Oh, terrible.
So I poured us a little bit of coffee. So instead of the one pod, we got a little coffee pod going. Is that okay?
Coffee talk?
Is it okay to coffee talk? Welcome into Coffee Talk. I'm getting verklempt.
How good is Mike Myers?
Mike Myers is incredible.
That's Mike Myers lately.
So good. Pump for coffee. You know I'm always down for some coffee here. So one of the biggest regrets is not getting into coffee earlier.
You know,
I wish I'd have taken nutrition seriously earlier in my life. And I'd have drank coffee. Why didn't I drink coffee in college? How did I get crunk?
When was your first
Red Bull vodka?
Well, no. When did you first make the jump from I'm not a coffee drinker to I coffee every day?
Probably like maybe 2 years, like a year into Chick and Nick. So like 2010.
Like, how did it happen?
I don't know. I don't remember.
How did that day happen?
I think my wife, girlfriend at the time, she was drinking coffee, and like I suppose that's how it kind of like she was drinking it, and I finally took the plunge. And I used to just put like so much creamer and like this much coffee, and like I would just be cream. And then I've slowly just worked myself to black, and now it's just I'm so addicted, it's ridiculous.
That was my battle, was like I didn't want to need it, but I've actually grown to coffee. I just don't drink it regular. I drink it for fun. Like this, now I'm going to drink it because I want to drink it.
Right. It's not very hot. I should have kept my pot like turned on.
Cold coffee.
It's cold coffee, just like my poem I wrote when I was in poetry at Kansas. Anybody out there looking into the camera here, if you are in college, if there is a poetry class, take it. Because I could pull up my old poems. They're terrible. But guess what? I got an A, because how are you to tell me that like my poem, I did it?
See, if I was a teacher, I'd be like, Nick, we are dumber for having listened to this. The guy in Philly Madison.
Right. That's right. The puppy who lost his way about big business and all that stuff.
Like, we are now dumber.
We are now dumber. I heard this.
But that's how bad your poems were. They were so bad.
But have I ever told you the story? So one of the things we would do in poetry classes, they would write like the teacher. He was like this old Englishman. He was very soft spoken. He had glasses. He was bald, and he was very like. So you could be like, this poem's called "Poop on the Ground." He'd be like, "It's wonderful. That's just wonderful. I see where you were going with it. Very raw and real.
You went for the feces of it. The feces.
Feces on the floor.
You were thinking about how the world is projecting feces onto all of us. I knew
what he was. Yeah. He would take it and like project it into something smarter. But he would write like a couple of words. He'd be like sunset, traffic, whatever. And you'd then have like 20 minutes to like write something up. And one of the words up there, I can't remember what it was, but it was something about love. And I wrote something about love.
Yeah.
And after I was walking out of poem, this girl comes up to me. She stops. She goes, "Hey, so are your love poems about anyone in particular?" I go, "No." She goes, "Well, maybe we should hang out sometime." And she gave me her number. Dog, right? I mean, my poetry.
Sign me up for poetry class.
I was like, what? Apparently, that's not bad.
Hey, let's think about it. It is kind of like for some girls, poetry is like the love language, right? Like she's thinking like, this is my talk. There's a lot of like,
I never called her.
There's emotion there.
I never called her, which is unfortunate, but I was just like, to this day, good for her. Like, how about just going for it? She stopped me before I even got out of the classroom. And what a good line. "Hey, are your poems about anybody in particular?"
Because that's a line.
That's a great line.
That is a line. Like she was willing.
She gamed me. I was kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. I was like, no, it's not.
I don't have feelings.
I don't feel things.
Sorry to disappoint you.
I don't have feelings. See ya. But so
you got to give up to a girl that's willing to. I mean,
she went for it.
Every guy out there knows, like, if you've been in a bar and you're single and you're like, the amount of times you gotta do it.
Yeah, you gotta go
you
up to her.
You gotta go find a reason to go up to a girl. You gotta do it, but it sucks. It takes courage,
right?
And like, so I'll respect anybody.
No
matter how bad the game is. Like, if you're willing to try, I give you respect because it takes guts.
It's enough to like, it stuck with me. I will remember it for the rest of my life. That moment with that girl.
Respect.
It was amazing. It was an amazing woman. Okay. Speaking of poetry and/or songs, are we ready for the song of the day here? Let's turn this up just ever so slightly. Okay. So let me kind of set this up. I know we're perfecting how exactly we want to do this. I was like, okay, what are we gonna do for the song of the day here? So, oh my God, playing Purdue, which is in Indiana. So I was like, okay, let me Google famous musicians from Indiana.
Ooh, I got one.
Michael Jackson popped up.
Didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Michael Jackson popped up.
He's Gary, Indiana.
There you go. Babyface from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Ooh.
I'm still working our way up to when we are actually willing to like play this music we really want to play. But two dudes listening to Babyface, people uncomfortable.
10 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Oh, so I went on a Babyface rabbit hole. Two ones. Come on, dog. But there was another musician. And usually I like to play it before, but I want to read this and set it up.
Yeah.
One David Lee Roth is from Bloomington, Indiana. Obviously, Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about my favorite Van Halen song, which of course is Dance the Night Away.
Yep, I knew that.
So I was reading some stuff on Dance the Night Away, and our guy, Osterman, who we talked about a lot on the pod last week, who wrote the 90s book that we discussed, in the most Klosterman thing ever, he ranked 31 Van Halen in order, vulture.com. And he wrote for The Night Away, ranked it number 3. He ranked it number 3. Here's what he wrote about Dance the Night Away. The crowning achievement of Michael Anthony's John Holly-like career as a background vocalist. There are dozens of little details here that could be obsessed over and expanded upon. The cowbell, the moment where Roth laughs at his caterwailing, the way the melody captures the specific act of a June evening 5 minutes before twilight. But the more essential truth is that this song just makes people feel good. You can't listen to Dance the Night without feeling good. This should be the hold music for suicide prevention hotlines. That is his description for one Dance the Night Away. So with that said, let's dance the night away here real quick. Should we do it? Oh, it's not hooked up. Let me pull it up here. Let me go.
What a description.
Isn't that a perfect description?
Though? I mean, like we were kind of talking about his finishing like segment of the 90s book, just like he just capped. God, that's a great.
Isn't that the perfect? That's the perfect description for it.
It's gonna be the wait music on a suicide prevention hotline.
You can't listen to Dance the Night Away without feeling good. There we go. We are now apologize to everybody for that delay. You ready?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Wednesday morning,
Wednesday
folks.
morning, baby.
Time to wake up.
I mean, how good?
Have you seen her? So fine and pretty. Moving alleys. And I feel love. Yes, across the room. This love in the third degree.
Ooh, baby, baby.
I mean, come on now.
Ooh, baby, baby. Take a dance. You're old enough to dance the night away.
If we can somehow pull out a victory, this is our song after the game.
No
right here.
question. I did like his also description of it captures specific atmosphere of a June evening 5 minutes before twilight. That's a good
Yeah.
That's a good
I see.
moment to capture. With
I
it.
always heard this as like
like a party song.
it's a party. I don't picture like outside with this. I picture inside.
Right. But cluster like I love how the way putting it, like this song just makes people feel good. And sometimes music is just that simple. Like, does it make me feel good? Do I like how this sounds? Like, it's just that simple. At the very least, like a song should move the emotion that it's trying to convey to you. And this song's just like a fun.
This is probably Van Halen's funnest kind of like, I'd almost call it like a potential dance song,
Yeah.
right? Like Van Halen, most of it's like more rock. I
Right.
mean, you're thinking of like
Panama,
Panama
jump.
Running with the
Yeah,
Devil,
right.
Jump. This is more of like a fun, almost you could dance to it almost.
Oh, yeah, you could dance to this song. I mean,
But yeah, this is like Van Halen's. I think they hold a special place to a lot of people because they are like rock and roll, like the rock of rock and roll. But they're not fall into like
classic.
80s.
Like,
They're not classic rock in this. No, they would be classic.
well,
rock.
because this song came out in 1979.
So they would be classic rock, but they're not 80s metal, right? Like
Yes,
I don't.
they're
consider
somewhere in between those two things.
Yeah, so like I don't lump them in with like Poison and Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue. I put those bands somewhere else.
But they're also not like Zeppelin or
No.
like
They're right in between the Zeppelin and then the 80s hair bands, right?
Right. So there you go, song of the day. But yeah,
So-
you're right. Like they don't really. They're kind of bridging the gap between those two eras a little bit.
And that's what. And they're just. I mean, Halen on guitar. Our friend Chris is a big time guitar player, and he learned all the Eddie songs growing up, and so. But you hear him talk about like how good Eddie Van Halen was.
Yes.
And so you got Eddie Van Halen, who's just unbelievable, and then David Lee Roth was. I mean,
Quite a showman.
swagger. I mean, just
Quite a showman.
just even every little thing he does has just over the top zest to it,
Right.
but it's like only he can do that.
But I think when I think of Van Halen, I think of the 80s. But this song came out April of 1979.
Dang,
So there you go. A little Dance the Night Away, David Lee Roth from
Mhm.
Indiana. So what I was thinking I wanted to do today, I was like, okay, what do we want to talk about? Of course, we got to stay in our Husker football lane. Although I do have some other things I want to throw at you later on before we get to our Purdue preview. 6 games in, games to go. It's kind of like the halfway point of the school year where we have like a mid-season report card. That's what I wanted to do. I want to go position by position, give a grade, discuss them a little bit. I also want to talk about coaching, and then I also did a little MVP. I have my MVP power rankings I'm going to throw at you too.
Okay.
So mid-season report card for Nebraska football position by position. We'll start at the quarterback spot. I gave the quarterback position a B. Would you put it higher? Like A feels like Casey's been good. A feels like Maybe I will say in doing this, I feel like I'm a tough grader. And it's hard to give a team that's been losing like high grades position wise. But so I gave him a B. Casey Thompson, real quick, 65% completion percent. He's thrown for 1,490 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's also has 5 rushing touchdowns.
Okay. I've been reading a lot about the state of education. So I'm going to be a tough grader here.
Okay.
So we're on the same page. I'm not an easy grade. I grade tough.
A's. Right.
It's a tough grade. I'm going to grade the same way I would 5, 10, 20 years ago. Right.
Right.
So Casey Thompson was good enough in a handful of these games with a bad line that I'm taking that into a big consideration. So I'm going to give him a B-.
Okay.
Because he was good enough. His last couple games, he's just had some shaky stretches, just some throws, but he's never been like the reason we lose. He has not. He's been the reason we've had a chance to win a lot of games.
Oh, no question.
So I think he's managed things pretty well. And I think he's rarely just missed throws. It's been more like pressure or
yes,
other circumstances, but he's managed the game. I think we've just had Oklahoma and portion of Indiana Rutgers. It was just like the offense.
He's had these little stretches where
stagnant,
things have struggled a little bit, but I think, like you said, it's important to kind of talk about how, the quarterback, you're at the mercy of your line, you're at the mercy of a lot of things. And we talked about it in the recap pod. There's been an erosion in his pocket presence, but there's also been a erosion in a clean pocket at all. I mean, this pass protection is brutal. So I was listening to Sip on the radio, and he made the point that there's almost like a feeling of inevitability until Casey's like knocked out of a game completely.
It's starting to it's trending that way because he's gone down now in 2 straight games.
Yes.
Trend would be he's
at
not
some point.
At
some point he's going to get knocked. So again, in his defense of like maybe getting a little scared, is like he's probably getting banged up and he's on a rush. Like, if you're hurting and you're going to get hit, you're going to rush throws. You're not going to read things correctly.
Yeah, the feet get happy pretty quick. So,
but we're close. B
and B-.
B to B- in our, like, I just had parent teacher conferences for Mava in first grade. Like, if we had a conference with Casey and his dad, we'd say, I would tell him, like, listen, we understand and acknowledge the offensive line issues and how that impacts you, but I'm gonna give you a B right now.
Yeah. I mean, we still have to grade them on their performance. And there's going to be
picks is a lot.
Right? There's influence that comes from your teammates. That's part of football. But on the individual plays that you can make or that should not make, we're going to judge those.
Totally. Running back. This was the hardest one for me to not give an A. I gave it a B+. I don't know. When I look at Anthony Grant, I'm like, let's not get crazy and, think he's Barry Sanders or anything like that. But I just look at him and I'm like, it's hard for me to really find a bunch of gripes with how he's played.
I would give him an A.
Yeah, like, man, I know I wrote B+/A question mark, and I want to discuss it with you. Like, I can be talked A.
I mean, can I give an A-, I guess?
Yeah, sure.
I want to give an A- because I think the minus is just in the sense of like he hasn't done anything unbelievable. I think he's been as good as we've seen in a long time around here.
Right.
And he's done everything and more that we've asked for him. Like, he makes yards out of plays with nothing. He doesn't make stupid mistakes. He's like averaging over 100 yards a game. I mean, he's
tough. He's elusive.
I mean, where is he ranked right now in the country? I thought he was like top 10 for over 100 yards a game. He's like 130 a game or something.
Yes. Well, I mean, he's averaging over 100 a game. He's at 647 yards for the season. He's on pace to finish top 10 single season rushing yards in Nebraska history.
Yeah, so I mean, an A- might actually be shorting him here.
Right.
Because if you're top 10 in the country, we would call that, like, if you're a top 10%, that's an A, right?
Right.
So I'm going to give him an A in that sense. Like, if you're top 10, right? So if you're on a grading scale, don't you get an A if you're like, if there's 100 kids and you're in the top 10, you get an A, right?
Yes. I think he's an A. Like, I just don't even really feel like there's been what can you really even complain about with him?
Nothing. I mean,
nothing. Like he hasn't fumbled, has he?
He didn't lose the fumble. He fumbled and didn't lose it.
Right. Okay. So he hasn't lost a fumble. He's when he's had a chance to house one, he's housed it. He actually runs tough.
I mean, comparatively to the rest of the team, like if we're gonna give out an A, he's I kind of want it to go to him, probably.
Right. Yes.
Probably it's going to go to him.
I'm with you. I wrote B+/A and wanted to discuss it with you. I'm going to go A. Let's go A.
Yeah, I'd say A minus, just because if we're talking on like, I'm thinking of like an A is, 90 to 100%. Like, is he a 2?
Right. Well, and then the other problem with this, and this is what we're going to get into as we move forward, is like AJ Allen and Jaquez Yant and Gabe Irvin. Like, it's not running; it's running backs.
Yeah, but they've given so many carries to Grant.
I mean, because
they've let him be the bell cow. I mean,
which I love.
Is where I said, like, how's the other guys doing? It's like, doesn't really matter because their carries are insignificantly low.
Right. So I'm going A. You go.
Yeah.
Wide receiver. This is where it's hard because, like, this is a group project. Trey Palmer is unequivocally an A.
He'd be close to an A for me. Close.
But it's when you take the whole group, I wrote a B down. Because A, like when I think of A, and again, wide receivers, I think of like Ohio State's crew or something like that, where it's like you got multiple Trey Palmers. Right now, here's the thing about Trey. His numbers are like, whoa. 40 catches, 544 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's averaging receiving yards per game. He's on pace to set single records for receptions and yards. He needs 30 more catches. Marlon Lucky was 70 in 2007, and he needs to get to 1,004 yards to tie Stanley Morgan at the number 1 spot. So he's on pace to be the number 1 single season
40
record.
Catches already. That's a lot.
It's a lot of catches.
I would say that's bordering on A performance, which I'd say that's probably an A for him. But the rest of the receivers are, and that's
what's hard.
4 guys in the field. Like they haven't been impactful in my mind. Like the rest of them have been C's. So I mean, I think it weighs out as a.
That's why I give it a B
minus, maybe
B minus, because
I'll go B minus.
Marcus Washington, I feel like has come on a little bit. He's got 18 catches, 266 yards. Oliver Martin,
found when
he did.
Nick was 3rd and 3. Sorry.
Chimney Rock, Oliver Martin, 13 catches, 1 touchdown. Had a good game in the Indiana game.
That's a good.
Yeah, they found him. He's here. That's good. Shouts out to him. Garcia Castaneda. Imagine when he caught the opening touchdown against Northwestern. If someone told you he's going to transfer after the 6th game of the season. So he's entered the transfer portal because there's the rule of the 30-day window after your coach is fired that you can enter the portal. To me, it's just like, why not just finish the year? Like, unless he felt like, was homeboy just getting completely like benched? Completely
he got benched. I mean, what's funny is he caught the touchdown pass and then he fumbled, and that wasn't a great call.
No,
but I feel like after he got the other big play that's
what I don't understand. It's weird. Like I walked away from that first game going Garcia Castaneda, Trey Palmer. Like
I thought it was like going to be like Trey and him as 1 and 2,
right? And now he is like fallen off. He's got 5 catches for 1 touchdown, and at least 3 of those are probably from 3 or 4 of those from that first game. And then Alante Brown's got 11 catches as well. But I think B minus, even though Trey's having a great year.
I'm going to go B minus just because the rest of the receivers have not they have not
made difference.
Done much.
Yeah, not made a difference. Tight ends. I gave it a C plus. Vokalek getting hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, this would be higher. Because I think when he's clearly on the field, he makes a big difference. Vokalek's got 13 catches, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. Borkacher has a touchdown. He's made a few plays. He also had his false start running out the clock. Drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Chancellor Brewington, 5 catches, 1 touchdown.
Minute, we're going to put Chancellor in this group.
Chancellor Brewington reporting for Purdue.
I was going to give them a C to C minus, and I'm just telling you right now, just because you said the name Chancellor Brewington,
that's a problem.
It's going up. Just because of his name and his essence.
Our impressions are in the tight end room. It's Vokalek,
What is that?
It's
Why are they so bad?
Vokalek. This, my friend, he from upper rich part of northeast part of U.S.
Thank you, Vokalek. I really do appreciate it.
In fact, I have plenty of offshore accounts near where you're from. Don't tell anybody though. But Brewington, 5 catches, got a touchdown, plenty of pancakes.
Guys, pancakes are what I like about.
I think Chancellor Brewington.
Bo Richter was, or is it
Boa Constrictor. Should we call him Nate Boa Constrictor?
Nate Boa Constrictor.
Well, Gus Johnson had a hard time. He's like, and it's Casey Thompson out into the flat. Butcher.
Bakalicker.
I think he's officially Nate Boa Constrictor. He comes out like Jake the Snake. Is that what Jake? He had a python?
Yeah, he had a python. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. Someone in a room was like, let's have a wrestler. He's Jake the Snake. He comes out with a bag. It's got a snake in it. And when he beats you,
he puts a snake on. Does the snake bite the person? No, you put him on him and scare him.
So why didn't the python bite him? Or what? Like I
do that. They don't
do pythons that they constrict?
Yeah.
I thought pythons constrict too.
They both
What's the difference between it? Why are pythons and boa constrictors like cousins?
Just cousins.
Like, hey, what up, boy? What's your a deer?
Can I get on that?
Boy. Good Monday for you, boy.
Cousins?
Are a boa constrictor and a python cousins?
Nick, I don't know. Are they cousins? I mean, I don't know what the term is.
Well, I don't know. I didn't. They're the same. They both constrict.
They're both constrictors.
So what's the? I mean, I figured a python bit.
I mean, at some point they got to bite, right?
Right.
At some point they constrict, and then they
more just of an engulfing.
Well, then they got to hinge the jaw open.
It's like what you need. We need a Chipotle burrito. I mean, those things are. Nate Boa Constrictor would be very good at it. I mean,
Nate Boa Constrictor, good De Leon's, and buy burritos.
I'll take the Boa Constrictor, please.
I'll take
the Boa Constrictor burrito, and that thing is just like, and you got to unhinge your jaw. I mean, I've always eyes of a Chipotle burrito is obnoxious. How do you eat that?
I guess I've never done burrito. I always do the bowl from Chipotle.
Me too. I've had a burrito.
The Chipotle burrito bigger than a De Leon's?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Bo, it's a good. Like you can't. You got like to me a burrito. You got to be able to like if I take a bite of it, I should be able to take like whole bite of it.
Yes, you got to be able to take top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
It's not like I'm chipping on
right.
It's not like a big tree where you're chipping around the tree.
You're not lumberjacking.
You got to be able to hit like.
Yes. We're on the same page.
What's Nate Boa Constrictor? What we're talking about?
So, yada yada yada. Nate Boa Constrictor, Chancellor Brew. So there. Okay. So our tight end room, we got Nate Boa Constrictor, Vokalek, and Chancellor Brewington. Yeah, I'm giving him a C plus.
I think C.
Let's go C.
Just because
I got a soft spot for my guy Brewington and Vokalek.
They had some drops. They got some injuries, but
C
is probably at best right now.
Okay. O-line. Are we going to hand out an F? I got a D- written down just because it feels hard to write F.
Not F. F's not fair. They protected well game one. I mean, literally game one, they protected well. They have moments where we run the ball. I mean, there's like to give them some props. Like they've come through in a couple games where we've
closed out the games. Indiana, North Dakota.
Right?
Yeah, right.
So I think it's fair to look at every.
We're
grading every snap.
That's right.
We're grading every snap throughout the year. They've had some down moments in protection. They've had some down moments trying to find some consistency in the run game. But I would also, I think penalties are down from years past. But I mean, it hasn't been great.
So D,
I think D is more fair than F.
Yeah, F feels just kind of like jerk.
F's like you're being a jerk.
Yes, especially the season's not like. Come on, like I'm not going to give you an F now. Like we got to wait for the whole season to play out here.
We're
because they're 100.
We're 3-3.
Won 2 games in a row.
We're 0-6. We can hand out F's.
Yeah,
I think
F's are hard.
3. I think their protection in Northwestern was
good enough.
Yeah, that game helps him in my grading.
And the fact that they closed out running the ball North Dakota and Indiana.
Yeah.
So there you go. But they're 107th in the country in sacks allowed. They've given up 16 sacks on the season, 62nd in rushing offense. So kind of right in the middle of the pack. They did lose Teddy Penio ass down.
They lost Teddy Penio ass down.
How many teams can lose Teddy Penio ass down and keep that arrow trending up?
It's harder.
It's very difficult. So, but D. Let's go D. Other side of the ball. D line. Let me give you some stats. They're dead last in the Big Ten in rush defense. They're 111th in the country in rush defense. You're giving up 186 yards per game on the ground, 4.9 yards a carry. There are only 13 teams in the country that give up more yards per carry than Nebraska does. They've not been very disruptive. I will say Ty Robinson has had 2 weeks of spending the night in Jason Peters' basement. They've had pizza rolls, gushers, and hung out.
They've been up
wrestled.
all night.
They've been up all night wrestling and talking. You up? Hey, Jason, you up? Fuck yeah, I'm up.
Go downstairs and
fuck yeah, let's go. But that's
break some things.
Let's go. You want to wrestle? You thought you would never ask. Kick your butt. Come on. But Ty Robinson's come on the last 2 games. Colton Feast he did his thing for that chicken wang game, at Rutgers. Devin Drew and Stephon Wynn have been they've been not terrible, but they've been
impactful.
They've not been impactful. I think D is more than fair. What do you think?
We're not including the outside guys.
I did linebackers for another. So I did D line, outside linebackers, inside linebackers. Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean a D. God, that's a bad grade, isn't it? I mean, is our D line worse than our O line?
I don't think it is, but I don't think it's much better.
They are. So D minus is generous. A D plus is probably more accurate.
Okay. In the spirit of accuracy, should we do D plus for D line and D minus for O line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
C feels like too good of a grade to give that D line.
Here's the thing: is they've had 2 better games. This is where like maybe a D plus is a little fair.
Again, we're teachers, and we're saying, hey, listen, your last 2 papers have been great. You've done a much better job. Like,
can I switch it to minus just because I feel terrible? Well, God, I mean, they played better the last 2 games.
No question.
And I would say if they didn't play the last 2 games so much better than they played those midseason games, like I would be giving them a D right now. So I feel like I want to give them a C minus just because like I've seen improvement and I'm encouraged by it.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Outside linebackers. Before I wrote down a C, but I think the reason I'm harsher on them is because it is maybe relative to my expectation level of what I was thinking was going to play out before the season started. I've been wildly disappointed in Mathis, Nelson, and Tanner. Like, I thought those guys were going to come in and just be like knocking heads off.
Yeah.
And they've not, like they're 96 in the country in sacks. And I know that's the whole defense, but I mean, those are kind of the main dudes. They have 10 total on the season as a defense. So Nelson has 4.5, Mathis has 2, Tanner has none. I'm going to give them a C, maybe a C plus. They have been better. Nelson's played well the last couple games. Mathis has come up big in a few spots. Where am I being too harsh?
I would say you're being too harsh just because your expectations.
My expectations were too high.
If we readjust our expectations to like, okay, this is what these guys are, and this is how they've graded. Like, I'm more thinking, how have they graded out? They're B minuses.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm just saying our expectations were out of whack. We thought O'Shawn Mathis was like game wrecker. He's not. So like if we readjust our expectations, like what are we grading at now? Probably a C.
Right.
But like last game, Nelson had a really good game.
Yes.
Like he was really good.
Right.
Like he was, I don't know if he was an A last game, but he was close to an A. I think he had tackles and a couple sacks, and he was throwing O-linemen. Like he was physical. He was slamming people. Like that game almost. So that puts them at a B minus to me collectively. Tanner's been okay. He missed a couple plays, but he's been fine. But Mathis has been the guy that's, maybe he'll come on, but he's still got some talent. It seems like he hasn't found his fit yet.
Yeah, you're right. I think the reason and that's why I wrote it down. Like, I think a lot of this is relative to my expectations were way too high for this group.
Very much so.
So let's go
Mine
B minus in that area.
I think I readjusted after about 2 games, I went,
okay.
I need to just take a notch.
Right.
Like we saw Nelson and Tanner last year. They've both gotten better from last year. But we thought with Mathis, Mathis was going to change things like overnight.
Yes.
And he is, he's a good player. He's not Randy Gregory.
Yes. Not even close.
And we were making that jump in our
I thought it was like, maybe he's going to be in the same vicinity of Randy Gregory, and he's not even.
No,
like
not in
close.
that vicinity. So when you readjust, then you go, okay, now let's grade him. They're B- in my book.
What about inside linebackers? Because what's hard about judging this group is Nick Henrich gets hurt after the first game, misses a couple of games. That's a killer. Luke Reimer had a Chipotle burrito and got a stomach bug, but he got sick and lost a bunch of weight. That was killer too. So then, Ernest Hausman had to come in and play a lot. Young buck, which is a really tough thing to add for them. We knew that position lacked a little bit of depth heading into the season. But what's hard is Henrich and Reimer have been on the field and healthy. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, B plus.
I would say B-. I didn't think that Reimer had a slow start. I think coming off those injuries, he was just slow, got sick. A lot of the things weren't working his way. Henrich gets hurt. And he's just had a rough first couple games, I felt like, just missing tackles, unlike him. But they've come on. I think Reimer's come on the last 3 weeks. I mean,
I know, which is like you hope he's okay.
Yeah,
for this week. But
to me, old Reimer
he's
with
played
his legs
well.
under him. He's a difference maker.
Right.
Henrich, he doesn't have Reimer's sort of athleticism.
Right.
But Henrich is he's a lunch pail guy. He helps the team do things right. When he's out there, we call the plays cleaner. We get lined up better. All those type of things Henrich does good. He's just his ceiling. I don't think his athleticism has really gotten much better through his time. Usually each year you get a little bit. So, but like I said, I think they're good players. That's the difference, though. I don't think when I talk about the ceilings of guys we talk about position groups, these guys are one of the better position groups on the team. So I think they haven't played as good of a season as I think they could play because the way they started, but they've come on strong. So B-.
Yeah, I agree. That's a B minus seems fair. I think when those guys are healthy and rolling. They're not worried about those two guys at all.
Yeah, they're guys that you can count on.
Yes. Defensive backs. I didn't even want to separate corners and safeties. I'm going to go all defensive backs. I gave them a D minus. I mean, Tommy Hill is now a wide receiver.
Okay, so explain that one to me. I don't understand.
So
I don't, Nick.
Well, apparently
I don't understand.
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing to think that he started. Imagine someone telling you at the start of the year, Garcia Castaneda is going to transfer 6 games in, and Tommy Hill is going to be a wide receiver after 6 games. Well, he's a starting corner. But Tommy Hill played even in high school. I think he was recruited a little bit as a wide receiver a little bit out of high school, and they've made it sound kind of hit the ground running. He's listed as a wide receiver now. And I wrote this down. Mickey Joseph said yesterday in the press conference, he goes, we need to get Tommy on the field.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there are guys, because did you see his kickoff return against Rutgers?
Yeah.
It didn't go anywhere, but when he runs, it looks a little different. Different meaning good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that you go from the starting corner to playing wide receiver after 4 games, pretty much.
I guess what I'm curious about though is Newsom's down.
I don't know how.
And Tommy Hill's not the next guy up?
I don't think so. I think they're going with minivan Brandon Miller.
So that
and
tells you that
Hartzog.
there's something with Tommy Hill that was not clicking.
Yes.
Like something in him didn't grasp defense or something. Like there's something about him that, because right now the quickest way to get him on the field should be cornerback.
Right.
He was the starter. He's been spending all camp practicing that. For 2 years, he's played defensive back, and something wasn't clicking.
And maybe, I don't know if you agree with this or not. There are certain people, you're either wired defensively or you're wired with an offensive mindset.
Yeah.
I wonder if Tommy is one of those guys that he's wired to play offense. Like he wants the ball.
Yeah, that could be. He might not want to.
And so
be
maybe
like,
they were trying to like convert him. It's just like it worked for Juergens was a tight end.
Yeah.
They move him to center and he was still wired in a way that worked.
Yeah.
You see that sometimes corners, wide receivers, they're kind of going, like you see guys school, wide receivers play corner and vice versa. I wonder if he was just more of like, he's wired offensive.
Yeah.
He's got an offensive mindset.
I mean, you got to be detailed on both sides. The defense is like, you have to be disciplined. Offense is more like mapping or something, I don't know.
I don't know. I just
defense, like you can't, these are the things you can't do. There's less of that in offense.
Well, and
offense is more like, here's your route, get good at it. But like defense, like it's like you can't let this guy outside, or you got to like you got to be,
I wonder how physical he, Mickey uses the whole thing of like, you got to stick your face in the fan. I think a lot of it, when I talk about the wired for offense or defense, like a lot of that comes down to how much do you like knocking heads?
I would say that's probably a big part.
I think he went to the Nick Bahe school of defensive backs where it's like, do you really want to hit anybody? I don't think so. Just stay in front. So anyway, okay. So because like Tommy Hill struggled, Farmer, Buford, Newsome, those guys have struggled a little bit to the point where they're throwing. I mean, they're throwing Malcolm Hartzog as a true freshman. They're throwing him out there and putting him on an island, but they're 106 in the country in pass yards allowed. I get that that's there's a layered thing, that's pass rush. It's a lot to that.
Yeah.
But D-.
I think
they've been Georgia Southern, Oklahoma, like
to me it's
and the tackling.
It's the tackling to me that is the part that was most concerning. Is that like it was the first time in a long time where I was like, man, we just tackle.
No,
like I don't trust our guys.
Hand on them.
Yeah, we couldn't tackle Georgia Southern. We couldn't tackle any of these teams that I'm going, these aren't like great players you're going against.
Right.
On top of the like giving up yards. It's one thing like, man, they're just, they're tough dudes, but they're not quick in coverage. And it's like we were getting the double whammy, like, and they're not tackling.
Right.
Like, well, what are we doing good? And it hasn't been a lot. However, we are starting to take the ball away from other teams.
I will say that.
I will give them that. So maybe D- is too hard. So I'll go.
Okay, that's fine. D- in that area because they have, again, a lot of the good thing about a lot of these groups that have struggled, they've started to play a little better the last few games.
For sure.
Which, that's also coinciding with Bill Bush being the defensive coordinator, doing some different things, Mickey leading the charge. Real quick, punting, Buschini, I give it an A. He's been fine.
I'm going to be tougher on him. He had a couple of
opportunities to pin.
I just think he's had a couple
against Mims. He had a bad punt against Oklahoma.
Yeah, that didn't help.
He got a punt blocked. So maybe A, maybe B.
Give him a B just because if you get one blocked, that's partly on you.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The punt against Oklahoma and a couple short ones, it's like to give an A to a punter, they got to be just
lights out.
Yeah.
You know what's weird? Field goal kicking. Bleak Road only has 3 field goal attempts on the season. He's 1 for 3, and it's hard to like.
It feels like we've been pretty good once we've got down the red.
I know that's the thing. So it's like I put in A because I'm like I can't judge it right now.
Too small sample size.
Return, punt kick, F. I'm just so tired of it. Like I'm going to give it an F.
I just don't. It doesn't.
They don't even do it.
Trey Palmer had a couple chances at punt returns, and I didn't think he did it well. It was too casual back there. We were remember me and you're talking DeJuan Gross, like get up the field. Like and he's our best guy right now. Kick returns, it's never even a chance. So like, it's hard to get more than a D from me out of that.
But
we just have we're not threatening at all.
I think because I love returning so much that it just offends me. I'm just offended by it.
Like, you can't tell me we don't got somebody in this country that wants to come to Nebraska
and
to return kicks.
I don't
punt. Like, somebody's got to be good at that.
Coaching, I broke it into Frost and Mickey. An F. Mickey, B+. Want to give him an A? I mean, he's 2-1.
He lost badly to Oklahoma.
I'm gonna go B+.
That's
fair.
I think that's fair.
Okay, are you ready for my MVP midseason power rankings?
Yes. Oh, this is exciting.
I'm going to get to you right after I tell you about Go Currency. Does your business need easy, competitive financing for trucks or equipment? Currency is here to help. Currency specializes in finding the best available rates and terms for construction equipment, farm machinery, trucks, and trailers. In fact, customers can get loans for up to $500,000 with little or no down and terms up to 2 months. Currency can also help if you're getting serious about buying a new or used motorhome, fifth wheel, or utility vehicle. Just fill out an application, and the Currency Finance team will go to work finding a lender with the most competitive options. It's quick, secure, and free to use. Currency is equipment financing made simple. Visit gocurrency.com for details. That's gocurrency.com. Offers may vary and arrange Express Tech Financing, LLC, DBA, currency pursuant CFL, license 60DBO-5487. Season MVP power rankings. You ready for this?
I'm ready. I am very curious to who you got besides two guys.
At number 1. This feels hard because I got Trey Palmer as number 1.
Number 1. Ooh, okay. Give me you, because how many do you have here? How many?
5.
You got 5. Can you give me them all before we talk about them?
So instead of going, I got Trey Palmer 1.
Okay.
Casey Thompson 2. Anthony Grant 3. Luke Reimer 4. Garrett Nelson 5.
It's hard because I think those are.
Was the 5 like? Do I have the pool of guys?
I think your pool is right. Okay, the pool is right. I was expecting. I don't know that I was expecting Casey Thompson to be.
Did you think he'd need to be number 1?
2. It's hard. It's hard because like Thompson has been solid, but Anthony Grant and Trey Palmer have been better. Like they've been like we look at the grading, right? Those guys have graded higher,
right,
than Casey did. But like, let's be real, like Casey's more important.
That's what's hard. Like I think what's tough is there is just inherently more value on the quarterback position that is just going to, from the jump, skew the whole way you look at something. Like the reality is every season, the MVP of the NFL should be quarterback. By definition, they are more valuable than you can talk yourself into anything else.
Yeah.
They're more valuable than any other player.
So we need, but here's the hard part.
So do you want to exclude Casey?
No, we need to include him. I think what I'm thinking of right now, this is happening right now. I'm thinking if you take off Casey, it's going to be hard to win. But I also think I'm thinking Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer's not, and even more than Anthony, because Anthony Grant had some good games that we won. I mean, he had a good game against Northwestern. We didn't win. Trey Palmer, like those touchdowns that only he can score.
Indiana, Rutgers, like he makes the 2 bomb plays. And I just, that's the way I looked at it as like, take these players out of the equation. And which player out of the equation changes the trajectory of the team the most?
I mean, it's like I said, this is where it's hard to argue quarterback not being the guy ever. But just for the sake of,
you probably got to go Casey 1, or
yes, but I just feel like
I think it's Trey. I look at this offense, I'm like, how?
I do think Trey Palmer, the threat of Trey Palmer has also helped the rest of our team.
Right.
Where Grant's been good And Grant would actually be the second guy.
So would you have Trey, Grant, Casey?
I would say Trey, Grant, Casey right now. But like, with that, like, yeah, we get it. Like quarterbacks are the most important.
Right.
And that's why every MVP ends up being every Heisman. Okay, we get it. But like, we also want to like acknowledge that other position groups can affect games. And like Trey Palmer being out there, we have never seen a receiver affect the game like he has. I don't think I've ever seen a Nebraska receiver be like, this guy changes the game. He's the first guy that changes the game for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to, there's been good players. Kenny Bell, Jordan Westerkamp, Quincy Enunwa,
Maurice Purify.
I'm just not been a guy like him that just runs past motherfuckers.
He just is a throw it down the field, he'll go get it guy. It sort of just simplifies everything for us. It bails us out.
Yes.
And it causes defense to constantly be going, where's number 3? Who's over the top?
Right.
That sort of thing we have not seen from a wide receiver at Nebraska ever.
Yeah.
And I might say that ever.
Yeah.
We've
like
never had that.
You'd have to go back to 80, early 80s.
Irving Fryer. Irving and the two, like, these are dudes.
Because I don't know.
You have to defend them all the time.
In the 90s, like you had decent dudes, but that was going to run past your ass
Davidson's
like this.
Possession.
Abdul Muhammad,
like possession guys, all possession dudes. Kenny was a good dude, but he's a more possession guy. He's not
and then Westerkamp's a possession guy.
Todd Peterson, Nate Swift, possession guys.
Right.
Like these aren't like just throw it up, dude.
That's
he's the first guy I can remember.
Right. So I was agonizing over it last, writing it down. I'm like, man, am I really putting a receiver as? I just look at him. I'm like, you take him off the team. It's like offensively, you kind of go, fuck.
I mean, and that's where I think I want to say Grant because I just love a running back and I love a running game. But I just think this is like unique. It's unique how much it's affected the games.
Right.
He's had 40 catches. He's almost 100 yards a game, and he's had all our big scores.
Right. So I think Reimer and Nelson would those be so in some order?
Defensively, Nelson. I think Nelson has been the best on the defensive side. Reimer has coming on late now has started to make his plays. So I think it's fair that Nelson and Reimer have been our two best defensively. And the defense hasn't been good enough that anybody should be really up for MVP. Casey Thompson has been solid. We don't want to undersell that he's been a stable presence in a very unstable situation.
I like Casey.
Yeah,
I do. I really, really like him.
Me too.
I'm glad you and I are seeing it similar though. Like shouts out to Trey Palmer, man. Holy moly. Okay, a couple things before we get to Purdue. We got to talk about it real quick because I'm sure people are curious what you think. Matt Rhule's on the market. Carolina Panthers fired him. So at Temple, here's his at Temple. He went 2-10, 6-6, 10-4, 10-3. Pretty good. At Baylor, took over the Art Briles kind of disaster of a situation. 11 the first year, 7-6 year 2, 11 year 3. His NFL failure doesn't really concede at all. Like it's just like with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer struggling in Jacksonville is like it's such whatever.
A different league.
Right. He's got a $40 million buyout from the Carolina Panthers, and reading in this. So the understanding of the contract is that Matt Rhule is on the hook for this season. But the salaries for the ensuing seasons are offset by a future college job would pay him. So does that make sense? So he's got the $40 million buyout, but it's going to get offset for whatever he needs. So I think when you're like, he's going to take a great job. If you're him, you're going,
take your sweet time.
Take your time, and it's got to be great. For some reason, there's something that doesn't I'm not enamored with Matt Rhule.
With what I know, which is limited, I don't know a lot about him, and it's sort of like skeptical of the fired NFL guy because of the Callahan thing. But Matt Rhule coached first.
Yes,
Callahan was a pro guy through and through. And I think Rhule at least has like the recent college experience. So I just need to learn more about what it's all about.
Yeah,
it doesn't really like I don't know. I've never put him in my head as a real
and I think
yet.
that's like, I mean, in a perfect world, I'm sure people are like, wow, turn on the mics and have an opinion. Like, I'm like,
I just don't.
I need more time to like absorb Matt Rhule and like study Matt Rhule to like have a better sense of. Like, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sitting there watching Temple games, and I wasn't sitting there immersed in his 11th in at Baylor. Obviously, you know who he is. You know he's a good coach. I mean, the guy went to the Carolina Panthers and got a ton of money. I don't know. I mean, at this point, Trev should be considering everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, he was quickly out of Carolina. Too.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to. It's a different game. It's a different league, but yeah, I'm also curious about that. Like, I'm always curious about like, somebody wants to get you out of there as soon as possible.
That's true.
I go, whoa, that's quick.
Yeah, that's true. Like what? Yeah,
I mean, how many they give him 2 years?
I thought it was 2 years. Or am I tripping?
I mean, did he get 2 full years or 1 year? And I can't remember if it was 1.5 or 2.
Let's check it out. Jimmy, pull that up. Let's pull it up. Yeah, I mean,
Durant has been there
just for 5 games into his 3rd year.
So he had 2 and a half
seasons, a little under 2.5.
I mean, that's not a big opportunity, but
yeah. I'm not anti, but I'm also not like, you got to hire. That's the number one candidate.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to read anything between the lines because I just don't know. But that's a quick turnaround. My
updated, week to week coach power rankings in terms of like who I want. Like, I'm always going to have Urban Meyer's always going to be one. But that ship has sailed. But whatever. To me, I still have Branda and Landslide pulled. Those are still like, I'm not moving off those 2 guys. I like those 2 guys a lot.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you care if a coach is on a downswing or coming off of a down year? And let me give it like the examples would be like Matt Campbell. Mm-hmm. Like Matt Campbell went 7-6 last year. He's 3-3 now. There's a chance that they win 5-6 games this year. Now they might finish strong. Who knows? Pat Fitzgerald. We talked about Patty Fitz. He went 3-9 last year. He's 1-5 this year. Even a guy like, you haven't heard much buzz about him, but David Shaw. David Shaw was really good for a while. He's fallen on the struggle bus here. He went 3-9 last year. He's 1-4 this year. How much does it bother you? Because you got to have someone that's got to have a track record, right? Like if someone's struggling and they don't have any past success, you're not going to consider them anyways.
Yeah.
So does it bother you if somebody like Pat Fitzgerald or Matt Campbell is like doing this? They're struggling a little bit.
I think it's got to be situation dependent. I mean, like there's something that plays a big part in that. I think it's hard if you got resources and you can't get it done. I'm going to look a lot, I'm going to take it more seriously. I think the places where there's less resources and you're at the mercy of some other things.
Sure.
I wouldn't, if I feel like I know something about you, like if I feel like you are the right guy, I wouldn't be quite as concerned with one downer or like one,
right.
Sometimes you just get like, man, we had some good guys leave and we don't have the resources.
Places like Iowa State, Northwestern, like those places they're probably going to be a little cyclical. Like,
but if you're at Texas and you have a down couple years, I just go, I don't know. Right. I have a harder time going, what would you do here that you couldn't do there with much more resources?
You just don't. I just think you can get in trouble being prisoner of the moment with a coach, or omitting a track record of pretty consistent high level coaching and overreacting to a down year.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, like if I had to answer that question again, like you said, there's tons of variables with and it's very situational, but I don't really care if someone's coming off a really down year. If I believe in them, like I still think Pat Fitzgerald is a good coach.
I think I don't care. If Fitzgerald wanted to come here, we take him.
I would take him, and I would be excited. And I don't care that he's the last couple of years because I know what he can Now, Matt Campbell, like his sample size is a little smaller than someone like Fitz or someone else's. But like, I guess what I would say, like if I were talking to Trev, I would say, Trev, if you think Matt Campbell, like you like Matt Campbell, don't be scared off if he only wins 5 games this year.
I wouldn't at all, especially being at Iowa State. Like it's state, like you're limited by like your recruiting and your school's infrastructure, which small.
Which matters a ton.
So yeah, if you think Matt Campbell's the guy, he's the example of don't worry about that. Like we look at the Frost example, like small sample size. Like as a head coach, 2 years got hot. So like, yeah, that's one where like it's the opposite. Like there was an example of anything happening. It was just a small sample size. So I think if you've seen somebody as a head coach for 8 years, like that's a good enough. Like you kind of know what you're getting out of them. So like of a down year going, like that wouldn't be my biggest concern.
Well,
you have
bad example. I mean, not bad, but it's a decent example. Would be Greg McDermott. Greg McDermott did really well at Northern Iowa, was struggling at Iowa State, but Bruce Rasmussen looked past the struggles and said he's really good. So when left for, I mean, Ras tells the story like the Ras told Greg McDermott at the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, even when Dana was still the coach, like if I ever need a coach, I'm calling you.
Yeah.
And made it happen. Like if you believe in the guy, that's my whole thing. I just want people to think about that. Like if you believe in the guy,
it's hard to find that you either know, have seen yourself, or somebody you trust, like to the dying end says, this is the guy. Like if you can figure that out, their recent record's not as important.
That's all. That was an interesting discussion to have.
If it says you can't win, I think you got to believe it.
For sure.
If you've had 5 years as a head coach, but if somebody, or if you got a guy, I wouldn't worry about the very temporary down cycle.
Totally agree. Okay. Do you want to talk Purdue prediction preview quick, or do you want to I wanted to talk about the Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole thing real quick.
I briefly heard about. Tell me a little bit more.
Well, I just wanted
the juicy details.
I just wanted to. Well, no. I mean, did you see the video?
Oh, it's on video.
Oh, you haven't seen the video?
Not seen.
Well, then we gotta we'll pull this up live on the pot. So you have not seen.
They put.
Well, that's the thing.
Video.
It is pretty amazing to think. So here you go. This is Bo watching this live. So this TMZ got a hold of the video. How this got out is just in and of itself. So Bo watching it, right? Poole and him are yapping.
Oh wow. Okay, so he's yapping. He's kind of walking over.
I love this. Watching it live.
He gets in his face. He pushed. Okay, Poole pushes. Oh, and he just punches him. Whoa.
This is great.
Wow. Wow. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Hold on. Look. Push.
And I mean, he hit him. I mean, he caught him flush.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he's lucky. He's lucky he didn't knock him out.
So let me. Where's it going from here? Because now Draymond's in.
Draymond had a press conference about it, apologized, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of he was suspended for a little bit. Just announced today, I think Steve Kerr said he's rejoining the team, and him and Poole, they had a meeting, and I think everything's cool now.
Yeah.
But it elicits a lot of opinions on it. Like, man, like, you get dudes like, man, if that was I would never, whoever could do that to your teammate. I don't know how they're ever going to be cool in. Like, it's a very layered thing because you don't know exactly, because you read the details you can get is that apparently Jordan Poole has been running his mouth, to get, especially Hero got a huge $100+ million contract. That's his comp. Probably, like, if he's getting that, he's going to get that. Like Draymond and like Golden State they're going to have to extend Draymond, Wiggins, and Poole. So you can't pay all three of those guys.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of tension in there.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Poole's probably running his mouth. Draymond obviously didn't play that.
But at the end of the day, Draymond is always the problem.
Yes.
He is. He's the guy. He's always the problem. He's
right. That's a good way to put it. He's the
never
one
not
common
the problem.
denominator.
Always.
It's always you're at the epicenter of every issue.
Yeah, and like that's where I have no sympathy for Draymond. I have none. He's the guy that,
I don't either.
If you're the guy that runs your mouth and always is the problem, I don't feel bad for you when things like this happen. Now, here's the part that I think is tricky because I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know the stuff happening. My guess is there are people that are saying you should probably sue Draymond. You should probably like the things that if this real world, like, yeah, you're fired and you're never hired again. It's weird in sport, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
In sports, you can punch somebody in the face and it's only talk about it and everything's fine. I mean, think about who their coach is.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr. Who punched Steve Kerr?
Yeah, Jordan did.
Jordan punched Steve. And you know what? Steve Kerr didn't cry about it. He said, we'll figure this out. And Jordan apologized. And all is well. It becomes just a story. Now, this is a different era.
Mm-hmm.
And now TMZ gets a hold.
And you wonder if TMZ got a hold of this too.
Oh, well,
somebody got paid to get is what I assume.
Yep.
Or it also speaks to maybe how people feel about Draymond. Like to leak that video, whoever had that video does not like Draymond.
Well, but see, that's another reason why Draymond gets what's coming to him because he always does the wrong thing. He does. He just always, his self-control is a zero. And it's a zero.
So, because one thing I wrote down was like, I wrote down best fight story for practices and stuff like that. But the one thing is like, there's a difference between, I'm sure you can speak to this. There's between a spontaneous fight that just like kind of bubbles over and like happens in the moment.
Yeah.
Versus like two dudes that like really don't like each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I don't know about this. Do Jordan Poole and Draymond have like a, like, I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean that was quick to throw a punch.
Yes, that's where
I mean,
right.
He pushed you, and you slugged your teammate. I mean, that's a quick punch.
Right. So because obviously, we see it on Hard Knock all the time. Fights happen. Do you have you never got into a fight, did you?
I mean, you get into scuffles. Never a.
Football fights are always hysterical to me because it's like you guys have helmets on.
You got helmets on, and people are you shouldn't break your hand. Just don't break your hand pushing with somebody in the helmet. But it was always scuffles, sort of like after the play. It's offensive lineman or fullback. Like, it's just like that happens. But I never gotten like hey, like we're on a break and a water break, and we're fighting. Like the fights were always like scuffles after a play where the guy doesn't let you go and you kind of just that stuff
maybe
is
that's
normal.
the way to put it. Like I was trying to put like there's a difference between a fight and a scuffle.
That's not a scuffle. That's a fight.
This is not a scuffle.
That's actually just like I guess Poole pushed him first, but Draymond went and got in his face.
Right.
Like once again, like Draymond walks across the floor and gets in somebody's face. Like that problem to me. Like you are in the wrong when you do that.
Right.
Now, yeah, maybe push him off. Like
I also think you
don't need to slug your teammate.
Right. You also got to know who you're dealing with. There are some people you can shove and some people you can't shove. My guess is because Poole looks like he's not even like. I think Poole did not think Draymond was going to swing on him.
Well, no.
I mean, so like
no, because he got drilled.
I mean, so you got to know who you're dealing with too a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like.
But I don't know. It's weird. Like I've seen fights happen. I don't want to be like they could never be teammates again. It's like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Like guys are built a little different, and especially sports in this world, sports is just different with fighting.
I believe that sometimes in life somebody needs to get punched. Like
so that's why I wonder. Like, did Jordan Poole? Maybe the rest of the Warriors go. Jordan Poole's been maybe Jordan Poole is on the verge of getting $100 million, and dude has been running his mouth and he's all this stuff. And like maybe we all know someone's like that dude's get punched in the face.
Yeah, and Draymond's probably the guy that says I'll punch him.
Right.
And you know what? That's fine in this situation. It might be, but like I'll tell you this: there's a reason why Draymond's the one that punched me, because Draymond always does
He's
the dumb
always
thing.
the guy at the epicenter
He
of that
always
stuff.
does the wrong thing. So, like, it might be Jordan Poole's fault, but Draymond's the guy that will do the wrong thing.
I've only been in, so at KU, I never got into any close fight at Creighton. At KU, in the spring, I got punched breaking up a fight, which is always the worst.
Oh, yeah.
I broke up a fight between J.R. Giddens and Russell Robinson. I was pushing those guys back. I got hit in the face, which is always like, great. Thanks, guys. Yeah. And then I will say, like, I legitimately tried to fight J.R. Giddens.
I remember that. I do.
I legitimately
Were you
tried
playing him one-on-one?
No. So we were, it was one of those practices, like, I think just we had kind of like, so Coach Self starts, like, we do a lot of the same drills. And like, one of the things is 3-on-3. And we were going at it and kind of, and he was running his mouth and I was running my mouth a little bit. And, you know, JR is kind of like arrogant, cocky, like, you know, I will say also I was in a bad mental state. This was towards the end of my sophomore year. The thought of transferring had started to enter my head. Like, I wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
But what triggered it, so we're doing 4-on-4 block out. Okay. So it's literally like Coach Self shoots, 4 guys offense, 4 guys defense, shot goes up, you go hit, you go make contact and go get the ball. JR, I'm not even guarding JR. So think I'm guarding you. Yeah. I'm going to go block you out. JR is over on like I'm in the baseline. He's on like the wing. JR is on offense. JR blindsides me. JR comes sprinting at me.
Yeah.
And knocks me over. Like, I mean, I'm talking like Anthony Grants me.
Yeah.
Knocks me over.
Wow.
So I get up, I go after him, I get held back.
Yeah.
But I told him the whole practice, it was towards the end of practice. I told him at the end of practice, like, after practice, meet me in the locker room, I'm fucking you up.
Yeah.
And you know me, I am far from Mr.
That's
Tough Guy.
That's surprising to me.
I had lost it.
Yeah.
I totally lost it. Like, it was the only time, like, you know, people are like, I snapped. Like, I've completely snapped. And I am telling you, the second, you know, we come in, we're wrapping up practice, you know, Big 12 champs, 1, 2, 3, Big 12 champs. We walk off. I go into the locker room. I'm telling him, I'm like, bring your ass here.
Wow.
And JR, I mean, JR 6, long.
Yeah.
JR would have beat the shit out of me. But when you snap, you like really don't care.
Yeah.
I go in the room, I'm waiting for him, and I'm calling him into the locker room.
Yeah.
And luckily, Aaron Miles, all these guys, like, held back JR from coming into the locker room. And somehow, like, I then, like, when I knew he wasn't going to come in, I showered and left. And then, like, the next day, it was like it didn't escalate to that.
Yeah.
That was the only time that I'd actually, if he would have gotten let into that locker room, I'd have gotten. It would not be good.
I don't know. You were mad.
I was mad.
You were piping mad.
You know, when you get so mad, you almost want, like, I almost feel like I wanted to get, like, hit.
You do.
You know, you're like, you hit a point, it's like, I want pain. I want to feel it.
It is amazing when a human being snaps. Like, it's almost amazing what happens. Like, the amount of adrenaline and what it does to you, it's to another world.
The idea that Nick Bahe was going to fight somebody is hysterical.
Hey, you're a competitor.
But yeah, it was bullshit. I mean, like, what is he doing?
That's one of those.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, come on, man.
Sometimes somebody needs to get punched, and maybe
because Coach Self saw it, and Coach Self made him run and made it like, you know. So and then Coach Self knew I was mad, but Coach Self kind of likes that stuff.
He liked the edge.
He kind of likes that, like, edge. You know. But yeah, so that's my near fight story. I also broke up a fight when I was a GA at Creighton. Enough time has passed, so I can tell this story now. Chad Millard, Booker Woodfox on the bus the night before the quarterfinals of the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. It was a game. Booker Woodfox hit a game-winning shot at the buzzer that day. Those two guys get into it and separate them. And then we went up to film. And before Coach Self came in, I had to talk to the whole team and yell at Chad and Booker that we're going to fight. So those are my near fight stories. But
fighting on teams, man, it happens.
It happens, you know. It's stupid. I don't condone it. It happens.
It's weird though.
But that's weird.
It's weird to put the video out in public. Like,
well, that's where it's. I don't know how. That's crazy.
You got to clean. If you're Golden State,
you find that guy and he's.
I'd say, guess what? You either come forward or I'm firing the whole video department.
Right.
I'm firing anybody that could have sent this, because that's kind of like That's called sabotage.
Yes.
That's internal. Like I know it's not right to quote unquote fight and all that stuff.
Don't air, to keep the stuff in the family, in the locker room. You keep that stuff in-house.
I've seen enough dumb, stupid, things that people get arrested for in my career. But the fact you keep it all internal makes it sort of like we put it in this place and we move on with our life. We don't have to like make it something else.
Well, like I've seen a lot of fights. Like that was a different, anybody that's seen that video, that was a weird, that's not how most fights look.
It was quick.
And it's hard to even call it a fight because it was Jordan Poole didn't even fight. I mean, he got punched and it was a weird, weird scenario.
Here's what it is. I guess usually if it comes from a physical play, like you,
right.
If it comes on, you're going to start throwing punches. I think I understand that more. That was a little bit more like
it was verbal.
I walk over, push, and right
punch.
to a throat. Usually it's like push, stand back, talk about it. Like I'm going to do something or and then you would push him again or like there was no Draymond went right.
Well, that's what think of all the 80s Pistons, Celtics, Bulls fights. It was like hard foul fight. It was like those kinds of things. This was not that.
That push wasn't even that bad, too. It wasn't like it was.
So
like,
now Draymond did say, he goes, you don't see a lot of what led up to that. Draymond that in the press conference. So like, that's a very interesting scenario. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I'm so glad you showed. I didn't know it. Like,
well, this was great that you saw it live on.
Great.
I mean, shouts out to Jared Giddens shouts out to my teammates for not letting Jared Giddens come into that locker room because that would have been not good.
I would love to see Nick Bahe in.
Oh, I was ready. I was ready. Like I was totally ready to get knocked out.
Just remember this: growing up, we would watch the UFC fights, and then we'd use pillows. Remember, you'd use pillows, and we'd fight. We'd do the real fight with a pillow over the knuckles, and it was great because. Like you guys would never really let me do it, but
because you were so much better than everybody. You were like, well, and your problem is so the pillow's getting held like this, but you would punch like that. So you'd actually like punch us. We're so much stronger and scrappier than everybody else that we couldn't fight. No one wanted to fight.
But I got to be the ref for all you guys fight, and it would always be somebody to have a bloody nose.
Yes, it'd be amazing. It'd be incredible.
But you were pretty good. You would win, Nick. You'd win most of your fights.
Yeah, but I know my here. I never.
Saying Bub is not Jared.
Bub is not Jared. Okay, real quick as we wrap this up, Purdue prediction preview here. Purdue's 4-2. They pissed away their first game of the season to Penn State. Not sure if you watched that game. Really bad clock management. I watched
a lot of that game, and they look good, better than Penn State.
I completely agree. They lost a tough game to Syracuse. Syracuse is undefeated, so those are their only two losses. They won a tough road game at Minnesota. Wasn't a pretty game, but they won it. Their other wins against Indiana State, Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic played them tough, but O'Connell didn't play in that game, the quarterback. And then they just beat a pretty good Maryland team, 31-29. Purdue, their 17th rush defense, 28th in total defense. They air it out. Aiden O'Connell throws it 43 times a game. They got a little white wide receiver, Charlie Jones, I think is his name, is an Iowa transfer. He's pretty salty. Like he's kind of a little possession guy. He might have had 11 catches in that one Penn State game, but he's pretty good. Purdue is favored by 14. So Vegas is saying
I commend Vegas for finally not making us
go like what is this line?
In every game we get to be underdogs. This is a good line. This is fine, right?
Like I think that line's fair to me.
I think it's very fair for their offense, what our defense has done this year. I think that's fair, right? Yeah. But this is going to be a good test for us. This is going to be a litmus test of like, where are we really? Because with Mickey and Bill Bush, where are we really?
And again, we talked about this. Like, you can't necessarily hold it against them that they played Indiana and Rutgers, but like, you also have to acknowledge that it's Indiana and Rutgers. Yeah. Like, yes, they've won 2 Big Ten games, but it's those two teams. While Purdue's not Ohio State, I do think this is a pretty big, not big. This is a step up. You could make a case this is going to be the best team they've played. Who knows what to make of Oklahoma? Because holy crap, are they on a downward spiral? Like, but there's a chance this is the best team Nebraska's played.
I think this is probably the most dangerous team we've played in the sense of like they always have a unique passing scheme that is hard to defend.
Yeah.
They just do. They always have. And we've been kind of up and down with the way we play Purdue. It feels like every other year.
Hey.
Last year we gave one up, and
Well, yeah, in
we beat them
in 2019, pissed away the game at their place when they had their like second and third string quarterback. Nebraska had the ball inside the 10 and couldn't punch it in a couple of times. But then in COVID, went to their place and kind of blocked a punt, scored a touchdown. You know,
Cam Taylor-Britt had the great defensive
tip. You know, but then last year they came and they kicked Nebraska's ass here. So it's, I mean, I also think the big concern is the ace. Yeah. Like Quentin Newsome, Luke Reimer, that's a big deal. If Reimer and Newsome are out, this thing could get like there's a chance Purdue puts it on Nebraska.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a tough game with those guys. It's a really tough game without those guys.
Yes, especially with Newsome. Not that he's been, Revis or anything like that. Like, but you're going to get. I mean, O'Connell. They're going to throw the ball 45 times. Yeah. So Hartzog and Brandon Miller are going to have to like stand up to the challenge here.
Brandon's going to come in.
He's already taken off. He's got the map out. He's got his snacks. He's got his M&Ms. He's ready to hit the road, head to Indiana. But I don't know. It's hard for me to pick Nebraska to win this game. But I'm with you. This is going to be. I hope obviously for Nebraska's sake to give us the best chance to win. I hope Reimer and Newsome are healthy so we get a real feel for where they're at.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, in the offense, like always. Can they play a game, which we've seen spurts. Like it's a
very spurt. Like,
it's like they'll give you like half a quarter
right
and score 2 or 3 times. And then they'll go silent for a quarter and a half.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Maybe, especially they've had a bad couple first halves the last 2 weeks. So if they can play a first half, that would be helpful because this game will get long. If the Purdue offense is on the field a lot, they really they did that to us last year, where it just felt like time was not our friend.
And you kept making this point on the recap pod, and it's a good one. Like you hope Whipple and those guys are coming up with some blitz beaters.
Yeah,
because it's coming. And the good thing about blitz, there's a high risk reward to it. You have the right call in it, you can have some big plays. And if you get the ball to a guy like Anthony Grant and he's got room, like pretty good.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I was reading the paper today and they said, they're talking about I think this was Braum, 2 things with Braum. One, he said like their defensive line is the backbone of their team, which tells you like, we better be ready for this rush. But he also said something too, that as like, I would put this on the bulletin board. He said, talking about Nebraska, he says, yeah, they're big. It's like they look the part.
Yeah,
he said it like that. I mean, he said that, and that's all he said. And he said they really look the part. And I thought, that's a slap, man. That's like a straight up, that's a slap. Like, hey, they look the part. And physical, and they're Annie Ann's. They look the part.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. You could absolutely go into the locker room and say,
screw that.
Yeah. They just think
you guys are soft. They think you guys are, overrated.
Look like Tarzan, play like Jane thing.
Yeah, that's what it tells me. It's like they're big and they look the part.
Yeah, and that's always tough. Like
they don't play the parts. What he's saying.
Can you ever remember a bulletin board material thing for you guys that got you going? I only have one at Creighton.
You go. I can't even think of one off the top of my head.
Ours was. So my redshirt year, Creighton was on the NCAA tournament bubble with Houston.
Yeah.
Houston's head coach, Tom Penders, doing for them to get in and other bubble teams. He said Creighton wouldn't get the ball across half court against us.
Oh, stupid.
So then the next year, we're playing them in Hawaii around Christmas. And Coach Altman, I mean, it doesn't take. Coach Altman loves to even. Coach Altman could have like Jordan, LeBron, Magic, Bird, Kareem, and be like, fellas, they don't think you're worth nothing, you know? And so it was just like,
anything.
they don't think, he handed the quote to all of us and said, you can't get it across. This guy thinks you can't get it across half court against this team. And so we went out there, we were ready to go and beat them. But some of that stuff helps. Like if you can find whatever little like to get you going throughout the week, like it can help you. But yeah, I mean, so I don't know. Like I wrote down, I think Purdue's going to win like 35-20, 35-24 in that area. But
man, it's here. I kind of have I think I have a problem. I don't think I
was just going to say, I wrote down, has Bo ever actually predicted Nebraska to lose? I don't think you ever have.
I don't think I'm capable of it.
I don't think you're always like, yeah, they're probably
okay.
I don't think it'll happen, but like I got Nebraska winning 63-0.
Nick, it's one of those things. It's like a tick. Like, you know how like there's certain things you can't
say it.
I don't know that I'm capable of being like, my prediction is I don't think I can.
You're like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar when he can't tell a lie.
I can't.
You are.
So what I would say in these moments is like the Vegas is right. They're right to do it. I just can't. I can't. Like
you can't get yourself to say Purdue is going to beat Nebraska by this and
I don't think I can do that.
That's fine. I can respect that.
Why am I that way?
But I think it's telling to say that we both think the line's about right.
The line's right.
Fair, I should say.
The line fair. But like in my head, I always sit there and think of the ways that we're going to win. That's how I think.
This would be an amazing win.
This would be a big one.
It would be a really, really big win.
Because this has been my big talking point for 3 years now, or at least the last 2 years. The 3 wins in a row thing. I just think the fan base there'll be a mental shift, especially with this game.
Well,
if we have 3 wins in a row, I think it does something for us. And we just...
and it would be big, and I know we're getting crazy, it would be big for the Big Ten West. Like this is there are a few teams that are going to be right there at the end of the year. Minnesota, Purdue. I still think Wisconsin's not like, I feel like Jim Leonard's going to be like the Night King and like rise all. Like,
they're not out of it.
Like rise them all from the dead, you know.
That happened in the COVID year. Well, I think that was the COVID year, wasn't it?
Yeah, everybody counted them out.
And they like came back, and then it ended up being Northwestern.
Right.
Won it, but like
I'm not counting them out. But Purdue's one of the teams that is gonna be, you would think's gonna be right there.
Yeah.
And then you win this game, you get a bye to just get drunk on the Mickey Joseph Nebraska Kool-Aid, and then you got Illinois coming to town.
Which is another
great for them, teams playing
that's winnable. It's winnable.
So
just win this
okay,
game.
There we go. In the words of Bo Ruud, I think the 14-point spread is about right and it's fair, but he cannot. I will not make him say it.
Do it.
I will not make him say it. Okay, that's it. Big Red Breakfast tomorrow. Are you nervous? Derek can ask you the tough questions.
I have no idea what they're.
I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know how it'll go. I don't know.
I heard it's like you're on a panel, but I don't even know where it's at.
Trev was on it a couple weeks ago, so that's a big act to follow with Trev.
Have anything insightful?
You got nothing to say?
Yeah.
Should you ask Derek, could we do a song of the day to get started?
Dirk, if you heard of Van Halen,
do you want to listen to Dance the Night Away? Does everybody want to listen to that as they're eating their breakfast?
I mean, I think it's going to be
would,
earlier than 10 a.m. So I think Van Halen at 7 in the morning. I don't know how people feel about that.
Yeah, I don't think you want to hit him with like Panama at 6 a.m. I don't think you want that at all. So, well, good luck. Don't say anything stupid, okay?
I'll try not.
That's my advice to you. All right, we won't make Bo say that Purdue's going to win.
Should we go fight?
You want to fight me? Let's do it.